Greetings, Tony Mobley here, and we're back with a new Conversations with Tony Mobley. And so we are back. Yes, we're back. And I have an amazing guest tonight. And so my guest tonight is Mr. Ricardo Hicks, CEO of Tech Factory Productions, a North Carolina-based video production company. And this is the 34th episode of Conversations with Tony Mobley. Why are we here? We're here because life has provided me the opportunity to have real conversations with real people. First, I want to thank my guest, Guy Cochran, for our great conversation last Wednesday. And I want to thank the team behind Conversations with Tony Mobley. So we are here to have real conversations, and we hope to help others with these conversations. But I need your help. I want you to go to my website, conversationswithtonymobley.com, where you can register for our Mukana chat, which is a chat that will allow you to ask a question. And not only can you ask a question, you can get that question voted up or down. Ask your questions in the Mukana chat. And if you like this conversation and past conversations, we ask that you like and subscribe. Today, we are doing something a little different. We now have question groups. They are: what got you here? Where are you now? What's next? And please add your questions to these categories in Mukana. Set that bell to all the notifications, reminding you of all of the upcoming conversations. And now, Mr. Ricardo Hicks. Thank you, sir, for being here with me for this conversation. And we're going to start with the very first question. Who is Ricardo Hicks?
Well, I always like to start referencing that I come from a very small rural area. I grew up in a God-fearing home. A country boy from North Carolina. So a lot of hard work was instilled in me at a very, very young age. So work ethic, integrity, those things were instilled in me at a very young age. And just a young man that was curious, just very curious. At a young age, just wanted to know what I could get out of life, what I can contribute, and just wanted to kind of find my way. And it took me on a journey, discovering people, discovering how to interact with people, and how my life experiences could turn into or guide me through trying to select a career path and affect change.
Well, we are so happy to have you here tonight with Conversation with Tony Mobley, and looking forward to having this great conversation. And I know we have some great questions coming ahead for you. And so here we go. So the next question is, what lessons have you learned from your parents that you're currently using today?
I would definitely say, I kind of alluded to it earlier, is just work ethic and integrity. One thing my father taught me at a very young age, that very simple thing that has stuck with me, is that your name means everything. So him telling me that my name means everything just really allowed me to really just think about all the decisions that I made in the marketplace from 16 years old to now. Of course, I made my share of mistakes and bumps and bruises, but that's been one of the main things that has guided me in all the decisions that I make, is realizing that my name is everything, and make sure it's clean and proper in the marketplace.
Fantastic. And our next question is from Mr. Roscoe Jones of Brea, California. How did teaching in the Performing Arts Academy influence your career? And what is the most valuable lesson that you taught them, and another one that were more taught by the students?
I would say, as far as valuable lessons taught, is just really try to find your passion and put everything into it. So I was teaching electronic music technology, which was my bachelor's degree was in general music and with a concentration in electronic music. So I had students that wanted to be music producers and just wanted to do it as a hobby or whatnot. But it gave me at a very young age, right out of college, these students were some of them 5 and 6 years younger than me. It really taught me how to really start pouring into young people and helping them find their way. As far as lessons that I've learned from the students is, I would say, just having a listening ear. Sometimes you don't always have to have the answers. Sometimes it's just being empathetic and being able to listen, and you earn respect that way. So I'll try not to be, even today, try not to be the first person to raise my hand to answer a question when I'm on various boards or just training and developing people. Sometimes I just like to sit back and just watch the patterns of how people learn, how people navigate through learning a craft and whatnot, and then taking bits from that and seeing how I can enhance what I think their learning style may be, and then to encourage them where they may think that they're failing. It's like just because someone, and I tell kids this, and I tell students this all the time, just because someone learns something faster than you doesn't mean that they're necessarily smarter than you. It's not the speed at which you learn. Sometimes it is the precision, or I should say the depth at which you learn. I'm not the fastest learner, but because I'm the type of person that wants to understand something so deeply that I can explain it to a 5-year-old. So with that,
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I learn at a very slower pace because I want understanding. I don't just want to know how to do something, and that goes back to the curiosity that I talked about. So a lot of times people would think that I wasn't as maybe even slow because I wouldn't talk as much as I would listen and watch. And then when it came time to when problems would arise, and especially in the technical world, I would run to the fire. And when I ran to the fire, there were solutions because I watched, asked questions with people that knew more than me. And I think that's one of the most valuable traits that I could offer to anyone that is a young person trying to figure out what they want to do in life.
Just curious, do you have young people working with your company now?
Quite a few. I started before I even started my own company 4 years ago. I had a passion just really for training and development. So started with the teaching, of course. In teaching, I discovered that I was about 23 when I was teaching, But yeah, so through the church, I worked for a fairly large church in the area for about 14 years. And I like to get young people as 16, 17, 18, and start teaching them the craft. Not necessarily for you to have to do it for a living, but, audio, video, lighting are great crafts, just, to give you an opportunity to be able to fall back on something, make some extra money, even if you don't do it full time. So with that said, of the 13 or 14 people that I've actually brought into the business, probably 80% of them were when I started working with them, they were in that 16 to 19 age range.
Fantastic.
A good portion of them, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So our next question is, when did you know this path was for you, this path that you're on now? When did you know it was for you?
That's a great question. I stumbled on it by accident. I didn't understand I didn't know corporate audiovisual existed, first and foremost. I had technological experience from my audio recording days, being an owner in a studio, working for a studio for a few years. And then I had hospitality from working in college as a night auditor. And then even getting the opportunity to, after I graduated, to pursue being an assistant controller if I wanted to. But I decided to go with music and audio, well, I should say audio technology and audio recording, and work at a recording studio for less money, much less. But it was the best decision I ever made. And then I would say life changes. And I would say probably about 3 or 4 years later, realizing at a certain point, like at that point, I needed to move to Tennessee, California, LA, New York, Atlanta, to really make a good living in audio recording. And I didn't want to do that. I ended up in Atlanta and going through my uncle's Rolodex one day and found a business card. It said PSAV and said something about audio. It had audio and it's audio visual. Called him. He said, "Do you have a suit and a car?" And I showed up the next, I think 3 days later. This was a Friday. Monday, I showed up with a suit and a car. And I would say probably about a month in, I realized this is the great merger of, my customer service experience and technical acumen, where I can utilize both of those strengths that I had, and that this would be a viable career path for me. So that was, I'd say probably about 26, 25 or 26. And that's when I knew this was the path for me.
Fantastic. All right. I noticed that on all your interactions, you have at the end of your name, MDiv. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I ended up, I was working at a hotel property, which was as an audiovisual director, and it was a mid-sized, well, I should say small property. I had 1.5 employees working for me, a part-timer and a full-timer. And I had so much downtime, averaging about 4 hours of downtime a day. And so I decided to get a degree, my master's degree in divinity, and work on that for about 5 years while I was there. And I got a lot of that study time in there because I always wanted to understand the Bible a lot better. Being a man of faith, I wanted to understand what I was reading a lot better and be able to explain it to other people that had tough questions. And so it took me on that journey. And someone challenged me one day. I was like, I don't want to put MDiv on my name because, it sounds pretentious, because somebody just came up in a conversation. Someone challenged you, "Oh, you should do it. I'm going to be looking for it." So this was probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and I added it on, and it sparks conversation. It's a good conversation starter. People that know me, know that I'm a man of faith, and not surprised by it, but it does. It's a great conversation starter, and again, it takes me on that path of understanding people. I'm passionate about understanding people and how to work with diverse groups of people, and so I believe that degree helped me with that, as well as understanding my faith in a more structured environment.
Fantastic. I'm going to take just a quick break and just reach out to all of you who are listening and watching. Listen, guys, we need a few more questions. We have some great questions, but we need a few more. So we ask that you go to the website, Conversation with Tony Mobley, register in Mukana, put those questions in so that we can get those questions voted up and down to make sure that they get answered by Ricardo. And so we're gonna do that reach out right now, and hope you guys will throw those questions in. We want to make sure that we really take advantage of this opportunity to have this conversation with Ricardo. Thank you so much. And now the next question is from Roscoe Jones again. And he says, who were your mentors, and did you have a different hold on one second. Did you have different mentors along the way?
Right. Yeah, that's another great question. So I would say I had many many mentors, and especially different stages. Of course, my father, grandfather, aunts and uncles even modeled a lot of things before me. When I got to college, my college professor, that was my saxophone, actually applied, and electronic music professor, and did a lot of encouraging me and respecting the craft. He just really picked up where my father left off. My father was, like I said, I'm a third generation brickmason. I understand how to work with my hands. My dad had a passion for his craft, and he always wanted to be, the best, and pursued it with that type of vigor. So when I got to college, my college professor talked the same type of talk, which was great. I found more passion in the electronic music than I did the saxophone. I didn't want to spend the time in the practice room to really be a great saxophonist, although I love John Coltrane. I just couldn't wrap my head around spending that much time in the practice room to become that good at the saxophone. But when I found electronic music, it really took me on the technological journey. And so Dr. William Smiley, along with my father and grandfather, Ricardo Hicks Sr. and Clarence Hicks, and I would say my minister of music when I played saxophone in high school and in my church. He was a man of the craft that was excellent. So I always studied people that were excellent in their craft and ventured towards them and trying to understand how you could be so good at your craft, still have humility, have a passion for sharing that with other people. And then when in the audio, once I got into audio, Ray Winters was the person that I bugged him for about 11 months because I had to do like I think research for my electronic music, some type of write up or whatnot. So I bugged him for about 11 months after I met him to get an opportunity to train me in the field of audio recording in a legitimate studio in Greensboro, High Point area that everybody wanted to work at. And after 11 months of just being persistent, one day he decided he wanted to train me. And again, a guy that's passionate about passionate about the craft and excellent in what he did. So I found myself very fortunate. And then as well as corporate AV, the first person I ran into was PSAV, which I know it can be a terror depending on what city you're in. But I ran into a guy that, again, just wanted to teach me from the ground up how to do things the right way. And so I find myself very blessed to have those people in my path to and just like to tell young people to look. If you open your eyes and look for that excellence, you can find it and go towards that. Even if you're too shy to ask questions, pay attention as much as you possibly can as to how they do things. And if you get an opportunity to ask questions, do so. So I found myself so to answer that question, yes. And even still to this day, I have people that I look up to that don't even know that I'm looking up to them because I may not see them in person.
Right. Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question. So who would you say is, you have a video production mentor?
I would say more business. I've had a business mentor. I would say that I've taken bits and pieces from a lot of different people in audiovisual production and watched different companies. I would say there's some companies that as you start a company, you want your company in the same breath as those companies, and when I see them work, I definitely want a separation between my company and be grouped with those companies instead of grouped with the bottom of the pack, so to speak. So there's some other companies that work that are in my area that do great work, and I admire their work, like Atlas Production Group in the Raleigh area, Creative Visions, companies like that. Capital Production Group do great work. So I watch those people. Alex Lindsay in Office Hours, they, and the whole team there, Jeff Keefley, I got a chance to meet him in person when he came to North Carolina. So just taking in and you start to see patterns and see why you gravitate to certain people, because those patterns are kind of consistent with what you try to work with in your own life. I hear Alex talk about his ADD all the time, and I think probably in the last 4 years I realized that that's definitely something I could be diagnosed with, because that curiosity and engineering. I'm one of those people that you have people to say you're a jack of all trades and a master of none. My dad, I say, is a jack of all trades and a master of a couple, and I consider myself that too, a jack of all trades and a master of a couple. I try to master a couple, or working towards mastering a couple. But I find similarities and look to people like that.
Fantastic. The next question is, can you talk about your work with software, AWS, Vmix, the cloud, etc.?
So I can definitely talk. The cloud, I have to be honest with you. I did get everything set up on the cloud. It was, or I had someone set it up for me. And I haven't ventured out to step out and start working on there much. I've just been playing around with it. But I'm a hardware guy. I like the hardware. I like something that I can touch right now. So I do. I love Vmix. I have probably about 20 Vmix licenses, maybe 24 Vmix licenses, a bunch of probably a total of about 15, 20 Vmix machines, some a lot more robust than others. Some I built. So I built a lot of custom machines that I built. I built a Threadripper. I built every component, put the software, everything from the ground up, selecting the chassis and everything. So I'm more of a hardware person right now. Use a lot of decimators in my workflow. Blackmagic, ATEM. I should have. I should be getting a discount as much Blackmagic stuff that I have. I spent a lot of money with Blackmagic. A lot, because I do live events, a lot of virtual events. We could be doing as many as 3 or 4 events at the same time. So several ATEM Extremes, mini. Vmix is a big part of our workflow, and one of the big things with the hybrid events is, as a lot of people, the people that do this know, one of the trickiest things or probably the trickiest thing to deal with is the mix minuses and getting the audio workflow. Is the video you can get, but getting those mix minuses and figuring it out when you're trying to get two-way communication with people talking from a stage and presenting from Zoom, and going back and forth and such. Those things, the things that I live for, is figuring out how to engineer those things. I'm one of those people that I'll get close. I'm 80% there, and it'll drive me crazy until I'm 100%. I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, "Oh, I think this is what it is." I'll go to my upstairs and work quietly for an hour and a half and check a box, and it's like, okay, that's what it was. And then, dispel that, take that further with my team and explain how it works. So, we use Vmix. We use Zoom in our workflow for, primarily, exclusively, I should say, especially on the back end. I like to say we're platform agnostic for the end client, as far as what they see, and we use whatever platform they want to use. But when we're working with these workflows and getting people flowing in and out from green rooms that we create, which labeled as green rooms or main stages from breakout rooms that we've established, that workflow is heavy with Zoom and Vmix, very heavy.
So I'm going to ask you a couple of things.
Sure.
So first, I want you to go back and just talk about what is involved in one license of Vmix, because you said you have 20. So for a person who does not know anything about what Vmix is,
sure.
what is one license of Vmix? What does that mean?
Yeah, so you have to purchase each license, and I have from as low as the basic license because I like to use them. They're varying levels. So the basic will give you 4 inputs, I believe it is. Then you step up, and I think you get up to maybe 10 inputs, and then so I think it's 4 different levels. So each license has its usages. So I have some basic Lenovo laptops that I'll have a basic license that I may want to play a PowerPoint from or play a video from, something basic that might be in some breakout rooms. So I'll have maybe 10 of those that are just on basic plain Lenovo laptops. And then I have more robust gaming laptops that allow me more inputs. And with laptops, I really don't like to go beyond 2 USB capture cards. So I'm still only using 2 physical capture devices as inputs. But then you have other, overlays and holding slides and other bills. And each one of those layers, or I should say bills or inputs, whether it's a input of a slide or a JPEG or anything, each one of those items take an input. So once we get into more robust shows, then we need, several inputs to be able to allow a program to flow. When I get to those laptops, then I may bring in 1 or 2 sources, and then we step up to the machines, the computers that we built, and we use physical, I should say PCIe slotted AJA.
I want you to for a second, because you are giving us the information, but I want you to put on your educator's hat.
Yeah, got you.
For those who are listening, because I love it. But I also want to bring along those people who are listening who may not be in the production world. But this is the thing too. There are people who are listening who are trying to figure out how they're going to do their worship experience, and they are struggling because a lot of them are, small churches, and they don't have a lot of resources. And so why use Vmix? What's the importance of AWS? So let's make it for the layman, because we know we know the office hours crew, they got it, and I'm right there with you. But let's share some information that can be helpful to those people that are struggling with trying to figure out how they can do worship and how they can do their business or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing me backing me up to that. So I think that's fair, and there's so many different options that you can use out there. You have StreamYard, you have Ecamm Live, and different programs that you can use. I like Vmix, and I like to push people towards Vmix again because I'm an educator and I'm a teacher, and I also like to allow things to be kind of modular and something that you can grow with. You start with a StreamYard, and it's in the box, and you have some versatility and some things that you can do with some of these other web-based programs. But I like Vmix because you can start with the basic license. You can go up and increase that license with more inputs, but it also puts you in a position to where you're using something that is more professional and that could translate outside of the church. So if you spend the time with something that's a little bit more robust, like a Vmix, a product like that, it's worth the time to put in and start small with something like that, with a $60 basic license with 4 inputs, because you're using something that you can grow with. And then there's also a community. These other platforms have communities as well, but it's a more professional product. And as you grow with the software and increase those licenses, then you're allowed to do even more things with it than you can even dream of doing with something that is web-based.
Okay. So one last thing. So real quickly, StreamYard, and you mentioned Ecamm and Vmix. Sure. They are virtual switchers that allow you to do some of the same functions that the ATEM
Exactly.
platforms can do, but
Exactly.
they are just software switches that do the same thing as the ATEM hardware.
Yeah, they can do similar things, and we use a combination of hardware and the software. But you're limited with StreamYard. Is a if you want to start get going fast, the learning curve is low. Vmix is going to be a higher learning curve, but it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off in the long run.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ricardo, for that.
Yeah.
And so before I read the next question, I want you to again share your website for your company.
Sure. Sure. Website is www.techfactoryproductions.com.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
and the
sure.
next question is, how did the Tech Factory Productions get started?
Tech Factory got started, I would say out of, honestly, just frustration, trying to get, I was blessed to work with a few different companies. I had some good experiences with these companies, and but at a certain point, you want the culture to be a certain way in a place, and it's it's just time to move on. So I took the last 6 years I was in a sales role, so I decided to just step out on my own and start my own company and build a company the way that I felt like it should flow from a cultural standpoint and development and training. Just I talked about a lot of things with like the passion and the craft, being passionate about the craft, and that's something that I hold near and dear. So instead of trying to push other people and have other people understand your vision, it's maybe time to just step out and see if you can do it yourself. And that's kind of how Tech Factory got started.
And I think we have a great video to share with the audience. And so we're gonna give a few seconds for that to pop up. It is in animation. I think it's about 2 minutes. And here we go.
Are you ready for your next in-person or virtual event? Well, so are we. At Tech Factory, we have you covered from the mute button to animation. And our dedicated AV specialists are here to ensure your event is a success. Come closer. Take a look at some of our work. Thanks for watching. So when you're ready, contact Tech Factory for your next event. You'll be glad you did.
Stand by. Going live in 5, 4,
That's
3.
fantastic. Wow.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very cool. Very cool animation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a big deal, and it shows your equipment and everything. So it was a great overview. Thank you. And that was only about 2 minutes, right?
Yep. It's 2 minutes. Yeah, something a little sizzle reel I just put out on social last week.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes, sir.
And the next question is, how has the world changed since COVID-19 for you and your company? the Tech Factory Productions?
Yeah, so much like any AV company that hadn't done a lot of live streaming, if I'm being honest, like I was a year and 2 months in as a business as a business owner, and when it hit, well, a year and 4 months, and I was supposed to have that was supposed to be my big breakout year. So I did shed a tear, and I had to pick up my pieces and just remember, those core things, that work ethic and integrity, and say, you know what, I'm going to have to figure something out, and just pray that it works out. And then, my video engineer actually called me and said, "Have you thought about virtual?" And I thought about it, but I really just wanted my live events to continue. So I did a deep dive, lost a lot of sleep, spent a lot of time. The phone started ringing and kept ringing and kept ringing. And actually we tripled in growth that year. So I actually had just as good a year as I thought I was going to have with just live. And so we grew exponentially. So it was a blessing to really just it goes back to those core values, that work ethic, integrity. And the first call that I got, the lady called and said that, listen, we have this 13 webinar series, and I don't know if you do this or not, but I told the people that we're working with, if somebody can figure it out, it's going to be Ricardo. And I thought that was one of the highest compliments, but it just goes back to those core values that I always started with. It's making sure that your name is good in the marketplace. So, so I fared out very well during COVID. And, I feel bad for some of the companies that didn't make it through. But like I said, those core values, being passionate about the craft, and I actually had to pick up another, add an arm to that with the virtual. So I treated it with respect, a new craft that I had to get in and try to understand, and I'm still trying to understand it more and more each day.
Very cool. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
We have Roscoe Jones back again, and he said, "What lessons do you remember most from your grandfather?"
From my grandfather, he spent a lot of time with me. I was the oldest, I was the firstborn grandchild, so he spent a lot of time with me. He was, I could tell that he was a professional. He was a leader, and just cared about his family. So he had a lot of kids, 7 kids. And so he took care of his family and took pride in his family. So that's the biggest thing. He died when I was 11. So, but those are the biggest things that I remember from him.
Thank you for sharing that. Liberty White of Atlanta, Georgia. Everyone likes the highlight reel, but can you share a moment that you failed forward in your business? And what did you learn? Wow, what a question.
That was a great question. And I have and I actually give clients this response. So that 13 webinar series went well, but it was pretty basic compared to the things that we do right now. I took on a more robust project, but when I took on that project, it was so busy I didn't have as much time to research the next steps to move into a bigger production, to scale that production to a larger production with more people flowing, having comms and being able to talk to people. So the point is, I didn't have enough hardware and equipment to really do the job properly. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know I didn't have that at the time. So it was a crash and burn for a huge client. I mean, huge. Within, like I said, I was sick for 2 or 3 days. I mean, just really almost couldn't eat. And fortunately for me, I didn't lose the client long term. They still valued what I brought to the table as far as, just sheerly how I carried myself and owned it. But what that caused me to do was, before that point, I wasn't, for Tech Factory, I wasn't the person that commanded the entire process of engineering. And that's like the first time, where I was in that point. I was so early in this thing. So that really put me, in a deep dive. Sure.
Can you talk about what you mean when you say that you were not in command of the engineering?
So what I say is the complete process of how the workflow of exactly how it's we would flow from these 20 different people that need to go on screen to get them transitioned into being ready in the software we were using. We were using Wirecast at the time. Was the computer robust enough from a graphics card standpoint? We shouldn't have been using a laptop, because graphics card was not robust enough for that. Just things like that, just the entire workflow and just the process of how the event was going to flow. It did call for a lot. There were rolling credits involved. There were transitions. It was a fast pace and just wasn't prepared. So I went back, spent a lot of time researching, studying, and really started building machines, getting into the whys and hows of how these software programs work. And that's how I've landed on Vmix and what type of machines Vmix needed to run properly, based on, the amount of inputs that you're using, going back to talking about the inputs and having four input basic program on a less robust laptop because of the use case for it. So I had to get into it completely. And then at that point, because I'm passionate about the craft, it just in and of itself, and my curiosity just leads me there. As from an engineer, once I owned that process, we never had a fail like that again. But it was a colossal fail. I'll never forget it. And when clients ask me that, I go back to that. It's an easy one to go to, but the sweet part of it is the client gave me so much more work out of it after that. But it was just a blessing. They were afraid to do something like a television. They call it like a television production, likened into a TV production. They were afraid to do something like that again. But I can say that I've done jobs 3 times as robust as that since then, several of them, and so I was able to fail forward with that. So that's a great question. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Liberty, for that question. Roscoe Jones is back again. And he says, what is it important to belong to networking groups? Mm-hmm. Tell me about the role you play in meeting professional international.
Sure. I think it's vital for a person like me that's I'm not really a salesperson. I'm more of a relationship builder. And I love community and building trust with people. I'd rather build a relationship with you than try to sell you on a one-off. I want you to get to know who I am. I want to get to know who you are. And, that's why groups like Meeting Professional International, like-minded people, people that are in the field of live meetings and now digital events as well. And even communities like office hours. I don't get a chance to join the panel. I think I've joined the panel one time, But yeah, those communities are very important to if you're serious about the craft, and I'm serious about my craft when it comes to live events and digital events. But my role is so I'm the president of the North and South Carolina chapter, Meeting Professionals International, North and South, what's called Carolinas. I'm the current president. My term runs to the fiscal year of June 30th. I love being a part of that board. It's a great board to work with, great people. Ego is left at the door, and we're just trying to pick the industry up, our industry up regionally, and help them move forward and understand what the realities are now versus what they used to be. So yeah, it's my pleasure to serve that organization.
Do you find that some of the professionals in the group are willing to look at virtual, or are they sort of locked into just doing in person?
Some are. So it's all over the place. It varies based on the market segment, I would say. whether you're an association, corporation. A great example, as you saw at the end of that reel, was Sunbelt Rentals. That was their we did a series of about 6 events for them, and one was their Capital Markets Day. What they ended up, it was really completely virtual, is what it was. We did have build a live studio in their facility, in their corporate office in South Carolina, and we merged with their UK office and had comms and had used Discord and piped that feed over to their selected platform, which was Pathable. So they were a great example of how they took 4 meetings and they're still raving about how we made it a virtual experience even to this day. But for some, it worked great for the Capital Markets Day, for investors. They were able to call in, ask the questions. We went from the UK CEO to the main CEO here in South Carolina. We partnered with with a production company over in the UK to make that happen and had all the communications in place. But when they look at what they do, which is heavy equipment, they also have a trade show element in another meeting or one of their other meetings where they want to show off their equipment to their several locations and show them what the latest and greatest is. And so they need a trade show floor with the equipment and need to gather in that way. So I think a company like that should, I know we're working with them too, with some events coming up in October and the following next April. But I'm hoping that some, there's a mixture, like the Capital Markets Day would be great for it to stay virtual again. They're raving about it. But we'll also be doing the live in-person element when they go to Vegas with the heavy equipment and have it splitting off and having a conference or breakout session and such. But I'm sure there will be a virtual element to that. I guess we would call that hybrid. But yeah, it just depends on who the client is, and really, if it's an association, I do a lot of association work that's built on gathering, and they're going to want to gather regionally in person. They're not trying to really reach out globally. It's more of regional South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. And they want to gather and bowl and do different things and party, so to speak, and then get together and have great education. So it just really depends on the market segment.
I'm going to do a little bit of a pushback. So the reason why I want to do a little bit of a pushback is because, I'm part of Office Hours community. That's number one. But the other reason is that, with regardless to what side you might be on or anybody that you're interacting with, COVID is a reality, and it is something that we are going to be having to deal with for a while. And so my question is, are you working? I know that you're working in terms of primarily doing in-person hybrid activities or events. Are you doing any type of professional development for if things should shift totally over to having to do virtual? Mm-hmm. Are you planning to be able to pivot in that way where it will be sort of a smooth transition if you have to go that way? And the reason why I'm asking is obvious that, because of COVID and because we still don't really have a good idea of where this is all going. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say, like, even now, virtual is we've done, there's probably a lot of companies that have done a lot more, but since March of 2020, we've done about 200 events, at least 200. And we're just easing into doing some, live and hybrid. And so these conversations are starting in the RFP process. Like when a lot of the calls I'm getting now or referrals I'm getting now are people that ask, do you know a company that can do both, completely virtual or completely live? Can they do both? And matter of fact, I had an RFP call today. I gave them a quote, and that's exactly what they asked. And they're going to do either one or the other. And they just want to know, when they give me this deposit for this completely live, if we have to go to another company to make it completely virtual? And the answer is absolutely not. So, so I sent them sizzle reels, different things, examples. So, I definitely find myself educating clients on the hows and whys, and really listening to them as far as, why they are making the decision that they're making. But for me, I understand the importance or why digital events are trending or need to trend in the way that they do. But I do understand, because I've been in the live events world, what type of, I should say, or what organizations definitely want to have a primary live audience, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
It answered my question, but I guess what I was trying to get at was that some of the information that's being shared is that some of the companies, or I'll take it to a different level. It is commonly known that a lot of the larger congregations that are doing totally virtual services,
absolutely,
have grown their congregation, have grown in donations, and they're not looking back as far as the in-person experience.
Yes.
And I think that there are several companies that are looking at it the same way, that they are looking at it from the standpoint that they are able to create this business where they were locked into only having the number that could fit in this particular conference center.
Sure.
And now they can go beyond the limitations of a conference center and have generate income and interact with a larger group of people who are interested in their particular company products. And it just, to me, it's kind of like, it's a no-brainer when you get that you can grow your company, you can grow your income, you can increase your profit margin, you can speak to a larger group. And I just think that for some people, of a certain generation, maybe even, my generation, that, we're comfortable, or we were comfortable with, being able to come to the conference year after year. We're going to tune in, tune out, figure out when we're going to go and fellowship with our brothers and have a drink or do the things that we do. But it really wasn't so much about the actual conference as much as it was about the fellowship. And when you are in a position that the virtual experience, like what we have in office hours, is where people who have never met but have formed companies and are doing activities and working together and doing all of these amazing things. And I know that that's not, commonplace, and it's not in every virtual experience, because there's a lot of resentment to moving from in-person to virtual. But I just see that there is such a huge opportunity for people to participate in that I was just wondering, are you struggling with it? Are you wrestling with it? Or are you just kind of just riding the tide?
No, I wouldn't say I'm struggling with it. Just like I'd say it like this, just like with the professional world, the different various types of people that gather for certain reasons in certain ways. When it comes to, without getting too theological, there's certain people that are going to interpret that gathering biblically a different way and want to that gathering and focus on that gathering being physical. And then you're going to have others that are going to, because of whatever strand of how they interpret the Bible theologically, are going to say, okay, well, this gathering can be done without, necessarily physically being in person. We can talk, we can hear each other, we can commune, we can do these things virtually. And we're just going to see that divide, when it comes to houses of worship, just as we do in the corporate world, so to speak. So that it's just going to be that divide. It's going to be there. A lot of your churches, especially when you get into Pentecostal holiness, charismatic type strands, they're going to gather in person, and they're gonna stick to that. And you have others that are venturing out and trying different things, or trying to do a combination of both. They'll do the in person on Sunday, and they're doing the completely virtual on the midweek. And then you have those that are saying we're just all the way virtual. So it's the same thing. And I see patterns. Like I say, I'm a person that pays attention to patterns. I've talked about it and just observe. So I kind of notice these lines and how they're established in the corporate world, and it's just paralleled when it comes into the houses of worship. So there's not much difference. It's just understanding who that client is, or what that denomination, or how they interpret the Bible theologically, to point them in that direction.
Okay. We have Roscoe back again, and Roscoe says, what role does faith play in the world of business, and specifically in the world of media and events?
Faith. My faith for me plays a significant role. I don't find myself being very, very preachy with the people that work around me, but they know where I stand, and I just like to keep to the basic tenets of integrity and how I carry myself as being a light amongst darkness at all times. And when it comes to the world of media and events, it's a business. Sometimes you're doing things that you may be working in an environment where you may not agree with everything they do from or how they run their business, or how they do their business. But I run a business. I like to say I don't own a Christian business. I'm a Christian that owns a business, and I just make sure that things that I do not compromise my integrity and morals, and that's the stand that I take there. But I don't shove my faith down anybody's throat. I just live the life that I live, and I make a stance for righteousness. And where I've come, I couldn't have gotten here without my relationship with Christ, and that's my guiding light in everything that I do.
Very cool. All right. The next question is, let's talk about your company, about how your company is serving your community. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that struck me was the video about the Methodist Children's Home. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I get an opportunity to work with a lot of fundraising events and nonprofits as well. So I'll say that's probably about 20% of my business. So, of course, I price differently. We do a lot of in-kind things when we're working with organizations like that. We do in-kind sponsorships and such. And even a step further than that, like I said in the beginning, my church family, is where I started recruiting people into the business. Excuse me. When I started, I started them off as a volunteer, and then get to know a little bit about them and find out where they are as far as what they're doing for a living, and say, hey, listen, you want to do AV for a living? I can help you get into it. But it's usually 1 year after I've observed them, like sitting by the audio console, their diligence to showing up, respecting the craft, which I hold in high regard, and then giving them opportunities. So that's one big way that I feel like I serve my community, and definitely helping people. It's not a community that a lot of people that look like me are in positions of authority to make decisions and be able to bring people in. So even before I started my own company, I was making sure that I was responsible to understand that the opportunity that I have as a minority, and extending those opportunities, not just to people that look like me exclusively, of course not, but making sure that I have that I'm keeping a watchful eye for talent that maybe other people aren't looking for, and extending that opportunity. So that's a big way that I serve my community and take pride in doing so.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I've been told that we have a lot of questions, so we're going to speed up a little bit.
Okay.
So the next question is, what did you learn from your time with you? What did you learn from your time when you were working with office hours?
Oh my goodness. Where do I start? I learned a ton. I think I told Alex one day, I told him that office hours was the home shopping network for me. I would go on and check out and hear somebody talk about a piece of equipment or a device, and next thing you know, I'm ordering it. So it actually cut out a lot of guesswork. That's the best way I can put it, as far as what equipment to invest into. Cut out a lot of guesswork. So as I'm reading on terminologies and following the conversations and executing jobs, I'm literally learning while I'm working. I did that for, I'm still doing that, but really the first 6 months, a year was like, it's just 20 hours a day, 10 hours at work. And then, when I get home, I know I've sacrificed a lot of time with my family, but that's how I survived. So I learned a lot. I bought a lot of equipment just because I heard it on office hours. I say, let me put it this way. 80% of the equipment that I've spent tons of money on virtual. Like I said, we do 4 or 5 events at a time. We've done it. Had as many as 20 techs working over a weekend doing events. And 80% of the equipment that I bought has been as a result of me paying attention to what was discussed and researching from office hours.
Fantastic. Roscoe Jones is back again, and he says, one of your past gigs, now known as Encore, is promoting hybrid events. What are your thoughts on hybrid versus digital first versus in-person for 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, I'm torn because, like I said, understanding some of these different market segments and associations and corporate and whatnot. So I think the picture is becoming clearer for me for what events probably should remain a digital or just completely digital event or digital first event. And versus those that maybe offer like a secondary where, okay, you're getting the stream. So let me put it this way. So some of the things that we do is, it's really centered around education and the attendees getting CEUs. So they may not get a curated, if it's live in person with 500 people and at 200 people virtually, they're not probably, because it's an association, they're not going to get a curated digital first event or, even be thought of as, really thought of in the process. It's like, okay, get it out there, stream it. They can get their CEUs and take it from there. So, the attendees, have to know what they're signing up for, and the associations and corporations have to understand how that affects their bottom line, how that affects engagement, and people coming back for the next event. So there's a lot to kind of unearth there. But like I said, going back to Sunbelt, that digital, going completely digital with a capital markets day, they're still raving about it. So it needs to stay there probably, but I'm not the CEO. But it likely will, because he's still talking about it. I mean, the tip, my techs had never gotten a tip like that before. And 6 months later, he's still sending gifts in the mail to all the technicians. So,
wow.
That's
fantastic.
literally, yeah. So it's amazing. But it's a great example of something that stays digital first. But some of their other events that we did that were completely digital need to move to completely live, probably. But yeah, that's a great question. It's loaded. And I'm not sure how much Encore knows about hybrid events as a whole, to be quite honest with you. I used to work there, so I can say that.
All right. And Roscoe was back again with another question, and this time he's asking, you mentioned ADD, but can you really be successful in media production without knowing a little bit in many, many diverse areas, both people and products?
I appreciate that question. So when I say ADD, I count it as a plus. So I'm not using it as a pejorative term. That's why I kind of laugh when I say it. I feel like most of the people that are in this tech world, they if you're thriving in it, you probably have a tinge of it, as we would say in the South. But yeah, and especially when you get into like the best techs that we need in the corporate world also have the customer service, have to have the customer service to go along with the technical acumen. And it's very difficult to find those, because usually the people that have tremendous technical acumen don't have great customer service. So finding that balance still. But that's a great question about the ADD. I think I heard Alex say it was a superpower, and I laughed when he said it, because I totally agree. I think it's a secret sauce. That's has allowed me to thrive in this space. But that's a great question. It's funny too.
Absolutely, I agree. Liberty White is back, and Liberty White from Atlanta, Georgia. You're looking into the future. What skills will students or career pivoters need in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's another great question. I would say 5 years ago, I kept telling the people I was training, like, listen, there's going to be a merge between IT and AV. I kept saying ad nauseum. But mind you, I was saying it, but I wasn't doing my homework because I was too busy selling or doing whatever role I was doing. So I had to. That's why I wasn't prepared for virtual full on, and I had to do a deep dive. So with that, I say that understanding IT is going to be invaluable, as well as the coding. I have coding clients in that world, so coding and understanding IT are going to be huge, because it's no longer the merge is here. It's been here now. So we kind of got sped up, I should say, with COVID. COVID sped up that process. We already headed that direction, but we're there now. And if you're not on it, if you're not on IT, you need to come up with a retirement plan if you're in the field of AV, and you need to, come up with it quick.
Fantastic. And we're going to do another call to action. We actually have time for a few more questions. So those of you who are listening and you have a burning question you want to ask Mr. Hicks, then please go ahead and do it. We have a few more minutes. And before we go to Dr. Clark's question, I want you to again share your company website.
Sure. It's www.techfactoryproductions.com.
And let me just share with the team, if you can, let's share a few more of Ricardo's photographs of the work he's doing.
Yeah, so that's a virtual event where we set up the command center, as I call it, on site, and stream from there. It's my production manager there with the headphones on. So yes, that's a hybrid we did. On the other side of the air wall was a small live audience of about 50, but we streamed out to about 4,000. And the command center is behind the air wall. Same
Very
event
cool.
there. Very successful event. They were very happy. That was another hybrid event, but definitely digital was very secondary. The one prior to that was a digital first event, definitely. So that's a hybrid event there. Yes, that was great. That was in actually in the I forget the name of the hotel, but Washington Hilton, where they do the room where they do the White House Correspondents' Dinner. That's the actual room right there. Yeah. So that's my team there. That's the biggest part of what we do. It's a hybrid event, or it's a coding conference. We actually interface with Google on that event. So Google came in live, and they had a very nice production where they interfaced with the live audience and had some Q&A and different things. So that was very exciting to get an opportunity to work with Google on this open source conference. That's a fun event that we sponsor with 5 cities, called 6 cities, called Six in the City. Yeah, and they have a lot of bands and stuff. So no, that was completely live.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Dr. Chris Clark from Tempe, Arizona. I love your passion, integrity, and leaning in. Stories of your growth and successes. So, what is your succession plan? Are you mentoring someone or a small team that can carry on your good work when you retire?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I plan on just continuing to work. So I will pass it on, but I'll always be involved in some way, shape, or form, because I want to affect as many people as possible with understanding what it takes and being passionate about craft and integrity. So as far as succession planning, training is one of the biggest things that I do, and that was one of the biggest things that I got tired of trying to push companies in that direction, and understanding, like, yes, you need an A1 right now, but if you start training training a person to be an A1 right now, 3 years from now you'll have an A1 light. But we can't keep talking about it every day that we need an A1, a V1, and L1 and not do anything, because that's foolish. And I got really tired of that. But it's something. It's a big part. Actually, the Tech Factory is for technician. It's actually not for the equipment. As a note, it's all about that technician, and that's where I start.
Very cool. And Mr. George Butters of Halifax, Nova Scotia. What do you miss most about work before COVID, and what do you miss least?
Before, just allowing opportunities for all of my freelancers to work on a very, very regular basis. My community, it's about 15 of us total, part-time and full-time employees. And I would say the first year and a half, it was about 7 or 8 of us that were working. Well, I should say 6 that were working consistently on, most all of the events. And it was just not enough quite to spread around, because I was investing so much in equipment. And, we grew, but there was a significant investment in equipment, as I was always planning on, we're continuing to scale. I know the growth is going to continue. What I missed least, it's coming back. So, I can tell you exactly what I miss least. I miss the least is clients putting the chicken and the steak over the technology. That was something I would fuss about often, is clients would focus on the food, and then you have a $40,000 food budget, and then you want a $15,000 worth of AV that's actually $40,000. That's what I miss least, because that is gone. That is no longer. Conversations start around AV. Food is secondary. That's a great question.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
George is back again. And the next question is, what advice would you give a musically technically inclined teen?
Yeah. So the advice I give is is everybody wants to be a rock star musician. Work on that craft, but also work towards that technical ability as well, because if you work on the technical side and lean towards that while you're working on the creative, you may be able to find a way that you can make a living while you're trying to get your break. And a lot of people have gotten their break. I've been around people that gotten their break. I wanted to get my break in music production, and I didn't have, I wasn't paid. I wanted to start a family, so I abandoned that and went to, and decided to go towards the career in audiovisual, which worked out great for me. But respect the technical aspect of things greatly and dive into it head first, because it can lead you on a path to IT, audiovisual, digital production, coding. A lot of musically inclined people can really thrive in a technical environment if you just, if you really think about it and just apply yourself, if you're not intimidated. So that's what I would say. I definitely didn't come into college as a technical person. I became a technical person once I started realizing that the dots connected.
Very cool. And we have a question from Matthew. I'm going to say Cole.
Yeah.
Cole from Montreal. And his question is, do you typically have a hot backup for your Vmix systems? Have you ever needed it?
Don't kill me, but not typically a hot backup for Vmix systems. But I will say the reason why is I don't use NDI much at all. I've heard the horror stories, but I'm very careful about what I do with my machines that are going to be going live, streaming and such. They're not machines that you go on ESPN and do different things on. So that's why I stick to the hardware. I haven't had any real problems. Of course, every once in a while you get an HDMI input or something on an AJA that's not, just acting a little weird, and you grab a USB dongle or USB capture card and plug it in to replace that. But 200 events plus deep, and it's been working for me. But I've stayed away from NDI, and I know I'm going to have to integrate that NDI a little bit more moving forward. So I'll have to respect the hot backup.
I'm just going to say the Office Hours community is really doing some exciting things in the cloud. I'm just saying.
I'm coming to hang out. I'll be back because I need to learn. Tucker set me up with a very nice system, and I have not. He laid it out very well for me, and so I need to use it.
All right. And so the next question is, what are you most concerned about for the future?
I say my biggest concern is for technicians that are not really diving into really fully learning this IT portion and getting into the coding and venturing outside of the norms. So my concern is for the technician. Obviously, I'm centered my things centered on people. Everything I do is centered on that. So just really trying to light the fire for young people and even not even just young people, but just like you can reinvent yourself at 45, 50, 60. You just have to get into the new way of learning things. Get into YouTube, get into these forums, and figure this thing out.
Very cool. George Butters is back again. Do you think there will be more opportunities for young people with audio/video skills because of their exposure to online learning due to COVID?
Yes, I think there will be Yeah, I think there will be some opportunity there because these digital events are colliding with the live events. So however you feel about it, that collision is happening, and how it fleshes out for a corporation or association is just going to is going to vary, but they'll see that those opportunities, and even with the metaverse, I don't see 90% of people just attending an event in a metaverse or preferring that per se, but it's a piece of technology that is coming. And I think that if you want to make yourself very well rounded, you see, okay, how do people gather to do events outside of maybe just a Zoom meeting or watching Vimeo or a YouTube live stream? What does that look like? And if you start navigating that, you can find a whole world of opportunity.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I believe that was our last question. Ricardo, wow. Oh, we got one more question. Who is the most interesting person you've met since starting your business? Or the one who influenced you the most?
Oh man, that's a loaded one. I would say, since I started my business, I would say it would have to be collective several people from the office hours format. Just the format itself, and having experts in film and audio and video and lighting and streaming specifically, and all of that colliding in one space, and the exchange of ideas. That, so it wouldn't be one person, but it definitely is office hours as a whole has been what has struck a chord with me the biggest, because my business, like I said, it grew exponentially with virtual events, and thank God for the work ethic and the respect for the craft, and thank God for the people that are passionate about what they do. It was a breath of fresh air, to go from talking about training and development, and at some points I actually thought I was like, man, am I crazy? Like, am I the only person that's fired up about this and think you should be fired up about this every day? And then you run into office hours, it's like, oh man, it's hundreds of people. They're just not right here within a 15 minutes away from me, except maybe a couple of them, but they exist, and in a new world that we're headed in right now, that has been the biggest thing.
Yeah, I just want to add to what you just said, that I have met people all over the world, and I feel like those relationships that I've met through office hours and through these virtual activities and conversations that are just as meaningful as any in-person relationships that I have. And I'm just amazed that there are people who are in all parts of the world who are listening and participating in this conversation that we're having right now. And so It's just an amazing journey to be on. And Ricardo, thank you so much for being with me tonight. This has been a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to us to continuing to have further conversations in the future. Thank you again so much for being with me tonight. And we want to do our special thanks right now. We want to thank special thanks to Kimberly Mobley. We want to thank our global family and friends. We want to thank Alex Lindsay, Office Hour members, DVE Store, Liminal Entertainment, Byte Hive, Video 360, Proofalone.com, Cloud, Bedrock. We want to thank Ken Jordan, Jonas Dattel, Aaron Huslich, Cherik Cheetah, David Brady, Marcus Lee Folk, Richard Lavery, Chris Fenwick, Manolo Lozano, Jeffrey Powers, Bo Cordell, Mickey Macachor, We want to thank Dr. Hazmuk Geijar, Doug Moeller, Laura Thompson, Brian Shan, Dennis Champion Walker, Roscoe Jones, George Butters, Joshua Mendel, Conversations with Tony Mobley producer, Clylock Lopez Waterman. Thank you all so much for everything that you do. Ricardo Hicks, video production professionals and the CEO of Tech Factory Productions. Thank you once again for your great work. And we are so happy to have had you tonight. And we want to let you know that we're going to continue. We have an exciting month ahead of us. But I just want to share with you who we're going to have next week. And next week, we're going to have Mr. Courtney Gooden. Yes, Mr. Courtney Gooden. And those of you who don't know who he is, I'm just going to say that if you want to have an opportunity to talk with someone who knows the ins and outs of old Hollywood, if you want to talk to someone who knows something about devices that will allow you to look really good on camera, you want to make sure that you make this conversation next week with Mr. Courtney Gooden. All right, guys, thank you so much for attending and being a part of this great conversation with Mr. Hicks. And we look forward to seeing you next week on Conversations with Tony Mobley. Take care and good night. Thank you again, Ricardo. Glad to have you, sir.
Thank you so much.